Okay, well, welcome everybody. And I'm really excited to be here today. And I'm going to be talking about job search strategies for first-time managers. And what I'm going to be covering really is strategies that you can use to advance your career into a management role, even if you haven't yet been in a leadership or management role. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which I live and work is the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do so and to connect with you all today. So I just want to introduce myself. Again, my name is Vida Thompson, and I have 10 years of HR experience, primarily within the engineering and mining industries, which is part of why I'm so excited about WIMD. I definitely understand some of these challenges for women, especially when thinking about career advancement. And a bit more about me. I started my own company in 2017 to work one-on-one with people to help them succeed in their careers. And I have three main areas of focus. Career coaching, where I help clients find career clarity and direction, develop job search strategies, and plan to transition into leadership roles. Resume writing, where I work with clients to write resumes to effectively highlight their skills and help them start landing interviews. And interview preparation, helping clients learn how to effectively interview and to understand what HR and hiring managers really want to see from candidates in an interview. So to start off with, thinking about career advancement, I just want to share this statistic. For every 100 men who were promoted to management, only 72 women were promoted to management. So this is a statistic I really don't like. And if you're looking to move from an independent contributor role to a manager role, that can really be a challenge. And as you can see here, it can be even more challenging for women. Men are often promoted on potential, where women are promoted more based on experience. And when it comes to moving up in your career, experience is often the biggest obstacle. Independent contributor roles and manager roles are different. You may not have the direct experience doing all of those management tasks that are listed in the job posting. And so part of what I'm going to talk about is how to leverage those transferable skills and demonstrate them in a compelling way so you can get the attention of HR and hiring managers and help them understand that you have the ability to do the job. So what I'm going to be going over now are the 5 basic steps to getting really any new job, but in this case, I'm going to be focused on getting management jobs. And we're going to go through all of these to teach you how to absolutely nail every one of these 5 steps to land a manager level role. And the first step is choosing the jobs to target. Second is assessing your skills. Third is writing your resume. Fourth is job search. And 5 is interview. And so for the first step, choosing jobs to target. So this is a part that job seekers often don't spend that much time on, but it's actually really important to proactively put some thought into this and really identify what you want to target and start putting together a plan of how to get there. So most people tend to apply for roles that are a bit too junior, trying to look and see what they can get and applying for ones that they feel they're likely to get an interview for. And they might often feel too intimidated to apply for roles that are the next step above their current role. So I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that show me job postings that just really aren't the next level in their career. They might be below their skill and experience level, or it might be the exact same job they're doing now. And when I ask, why are you interested in this role? Why are you applying for this? They generally just say, well, I met the qualifications, so I figured I'd just apply for that one. And often job seekers feel that they can't apply unless they have 100% of what's on the job posting, or if they've done everything that's listed in the job description. And what we want you to do is apply for roles that are a stretch and start to build the confidence, feel confident that you have the skills to do them. And a stretch role is one where you've done about 50 to 70% of what's in the posting. And if you're applying for a stretch role, it's normal to feel a little scared. You should feel a little scared. There should be something about the role that excites you and, yes, scares you a little. And by working through these 5 steps that I'm talking about, this will help you build the confidence in your skills to do the job. So some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to choosing jobs to target. So you don't want to apply for a job you've already done, one where you've done 50% to 70% of the duties already. You want to apply for new challenging roles, jobs where you don't meet every qualification. And, some of these aspects, for example, some of these things are flexible. So let's look at 3 years of management experience as a job requirement versus a professional engineering designation as a job requirement. It's easy to say if you have the professional engineering designation or not. That's a yes or no. But 3 years of management experience isn't really that easily defined. There's a lot of things that could meet that. Informal management experience might meet that, or the person that ends up getting hired might just have 1 to 2 years of experience and it might be informal. So these things are flexible and it's not always the same conditions that get you hired. And the stats support this too. So 84% of HR managers reported that their company is open to hiring an employee whose skills can be developed through training. So it's important to remember that companies understand this too, that people do need to develop once they move into a new role. So the next step is assessing your skills. And it's important to really spend some time on this and take a good look at your skills, get a good idea of where you're at. Now, it's really hard to assess your leadership skills when you haven't actually been a manager or in a leadership role yet. But one thing to keep in mind is people tend to always have more leadership skills than they think they do. So most people tend to focus on why they're not qualified. They focus on the negative. So they look at the job description and they see all the things that they don't have. They also tend to underestimate contributions and qualifications and assume the bar for qualified is higher than it really is. And as a result of that, they miss out on jobs they could actually apply to just because they sort of ruled themselves out because they don't think they'll get them. And job descriptions are often worded in a somewhat intimidating way. They might describe looking for an exceptional leader with outstanding communication skills that can direct high-performance teams. And it can be really easy to get caught up in the intimidation and anxiety of the new content in a job description. But what we want you to do is focus on the positives. So let's not focus on the negatives, but let's focus on the positives. Focus on why you are qualified. And this means taking some time to identify all the ways that your experience does meet the requirements and focusing on the ways your contributions and qualifications would help you to do the job well. So let's go through an example from the world of TV. So if you haven't seen Mad Men yet, although if you haven't, it would have been great to binge watch during the pandemic, it's a show about the male-dominated world of work in the 1960s at an ad agency. And going through this example, let's look at one of the characters, Peggy Olson in the picture here, who at the start of the show begins working as a secretary for Don Draper, the ad agency's creative director. So in Don Draper's role, he oversees the development of ad campaigns for clients, including creating concepts, pitching ideas to clients, leading teams of copywriters and illustrators to create ads. And Peggy then gets the opportunity to do some copywriting. So she gets to write engaging, creative content for a variety of marketing campaigns, and then gets promoted from a secretary to a copywriter role. Now, after gaining multiple years of experience as a copywriter, let's imagine she's going to go up for a copy chief role, as she did at the end of season 5. And this is a leadership position that would have her managing a team. And let's take a look at some points in the job description and see how Peggy might view herself as measuring up. So in this job description, the first thing they're looking for is someone who's managed a team of junior copywriters. So looking at this, Peggy might say, no, I don't think I have this experience. She feels like her boss, Don Draper, he's the one managing the team. That's not her job. But that's just one item in the job posting. So let's see what else is in the qualifications. The second thing they're looking for is someone who has experience dealing with delicate client situations, who can fix copy to make sure clients are happy. Now, this one Peggy's feeling pretty good about. She's feeling like she can do this one. She's always reworking copy to please her picky clients or her picky boss. And going through secretary school and working as a secretary means she's got a lot of skill at handling tricky situations with grace and diplomacy. So she's feeling good. She feels like she can tick this one off. And let's take a look at the third thing they're looking for. So in this one, they're looking for someone who can write and pitch a compelling creative vision to clients. So this is a tough one. It's kind of intimidating. It's getting, again, into some of that intimidating language that job descriptions can have. And Peggy's feeling like, you know what, I write a lot of copy, but I don't feel like I'd call it a creative vision. She doesn't feel like her work's that cohesive. And she feels like she's not yet at Don Draper's level of pitching and impressing clients. So she feels like she'd also be a no on this one. And then at this point, she might be feeling like, well, maybe I'll just give up on this and maybe I'll just go and apply for copywriter roles and forget about the manager role because she just doesn't have the experience. So here are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to assessing your skills. And one of the don'ts is to treat the requirements like strict rules. Instead, you want to treat the requirements a little bit more like broad targets. So try to think out of the box for ideas as to how your experience can meet the job requirements. Another thing to not do, is to give all the credit to your team. Instead, you want to take credit for your role in the team's success. So really think about what you did as part of a team to make the project a success. The other one you don't want to do is only count formal leadership. So you don't have to be a leader to have leadership skills. Informal leadership can include things like training, developing new processes, mentoring, leading projects, and all kinds of things. So you want to be sure that you count informal leadership experience. Even if you have experience that maybe it wasn't formally recognized and no one noticed it or gave you any credit for it, that still counts too. So always keep that in mind. Another don't is don't forget all the amazing things you've done. Instead, you want to keep track of your achievements. So a lot of resume writing clients that I work with, I'll ask them about a role and I'll usually ask, hey, tell me about the achievements you had in your last role. And often their response will be, I don't have any, or I don't know. But once I get talking to them, we realize actually they've got a ton of great achievements, but they just forgot about them. So a great way to deal with this is to create an achievements file. So if you receive an acknowledgement from your boss or a coworker, or you just do something you feel really good about, make a copy of the email or jot down a few notes and put it in the file. And this really helps when you go to write your resume or get ready for an interview. And another don't is to put less detail into overseas experience. Instead, you want to make sure that you give that overseas experience equal weight to Canadian experience. So a lot of my clients that have mostly international experience often hear that it won't be given as much consideration as Canadian experience. But this doesn't mean that you shouldn't count the skills and experience you gained overseas. So make sure that you do give it equal weight to Canadian experience. So now that we've gone through some of the do's and don'ts, let's go back and reassess how Peggy might fit into this job ad. So the first point was she felt like she wasn't quite managing a team. But when she really thinks about it, and what she's kind of forgotten here is that she's been doing a lot of mentoring and technical supervision of the copywriters for a long time already. She's seen as the senior person on the team, person that all of the copywriters go to when they have questions or might need direction. And she's also doing a lot of management too. She's filling in for Don when he decides to take a long liquid lunch and keeping the boys in line in general. So now as we look at this again, it seems like this one that she can do this one. And then looking at the third point, this was the one that was a little bit intimidating, where she was feeling like she can't fully claim responsibility for that full creative vision or really pitching ideas. But again, when she really thinks about it, she forgets that she was coming up with basically all of the creative for a long time because Don was off gallivanting around with his new wife. And she was also always pitching everything internally to get it accepted. So even if she wasn't responsible for every single client-facing pitch, that's still a skill that she has. And she also did a lot of pitches herself too. So when we really think about it, it seems like she might just be being too hard on herself. So I think that she can say she's done this one too. So when we put it all together, it seems like Peggy's actually pretty qualified for the copy chief job. And it's not a huge surprise. So in the show, she does get hired by a competitor, CGC, another ad agency, as a copy chief. So the next step is writing your resume to clearly align the skills you have with the job you want. And I've read a lot of resumes, both in HR and as a career coach. And I've written a lot of resumes for clients as well. And I can tell you the main areas where people make the biggest mistakes. And the first one is describing their experience as tasks. So reading a job description is just not that exciting for someone that's reading it. And it doesn't help them to understand how you can positively impact the company or contribute as a leader. The next thing they do is often they underplay the impact of their accomplishments, or maybe they don't even include achievements or accomplishments at all. And the last one is including too many irrelevant details. So a lot of people in their resumes tend to focus too much on the wrong information. And the wrong information is anything that's not in the job posting. So what we want you to do is describe your experience as outcomes and results and share the impact of your accomplishments. So a good thing to ask yourself is, what effect did my accomplishments have on the company or on the project or on the team? Then you want to only include what's relevant to the job. If it's a management job, the bulk of your resume's content should be emphasizing those leadership skills, transferable skills that the posting is asking for. Even if you're in an independent contributor job right now, this is still the case. You don't need to be a formal leader to have a resume that shows off leadership experience. So now let's take a look at an example of what Peggy's resume might look like. And here are the first 3 points. So for the first point, we have graduate of Miss Deaver's Secretary School. Then we have contributed to copy for women's products, including Belle Jolie lipstick and Playtex. And then we have responsible for printing sample ad campaigns for client meetings. What do you think? So let me know. Let's share in the chat. So answer these questions. So what do we assume about Peggy from the resume? And does she seem like management material? So I'm seeing not really. Jerry Lynn says no. Lucy's saying she comes across as very junior. I got a nope from Daryl. Holly says printed materials for meetings was killing me. Oh, I think Andrea is starting to get a little bit ahead and starting to improve this resume already. So that's great. So yeah, I think it seems like the consensus is it's not great. This isn't presenting Peggy's skills as well as she could. So let's see what we can do to fix it up. And so let's talk about some of the do's and don'ts. So on the don't side of things, you don't want to position yourself as someone who just does tasks. Instead, you do want to position yourself as someone who defines tasks. And so what I mean by this is someone that comes up with the ideas, lays out the strategy, takes the initiative to get things started. And you don't want to just talk about the duties you had, but you do want to talk about the results you created and quantify them. So in Peggy's example, you could clearly see we have someone that clearly does specific tasks, contributes to copy, prints off ad campaigns. So for a manager role, This isn't really what hiring professionals are looking for. They want to see more involvement in defining strategy and tasks involved. So even if, part of your current role is doing these kind of tasks, a resume that focuses on these tasks won't stand out to someone who wants to hire a manager. So instead, you want to focus your resume on the things you did that are related to the manager role. And when writing a management resume, the words you use matter. And we can see that from Peggy's resume. So you want to use action words that emphasize your leadership skills and the value you created, not words that just emphasize your ability to perform tasks. So you don't want to use words like printed, entered, provided, performed, but you do want to use words like created, initiated, directed, and spearheaded. And you also want to try to avoid corporate buzzwords, company-specific or industry-specific terms too. You don't want to use these highly specific terms unless, of course, they're relevant to the posting you're actually applying to. And, stats kind of back this up too to show that the words you use matter. So, there's a 51% increased response rate when you use leadership-oriented words. So it can definitely make a difference. Another don't is you don't want to tell your entire detailed career story. You do want to create your resume to provide the information the recruiter's looking for. So you just don't need to include everything you ever did in a position on your resume. So let's say your role is 50% task-based and 50% leadership-based. When describing your role, you don't actually have to include the 50% of those task-based responsibilities like Peggy did. Your description of your role can actually just focus on the leadership activities you did that are actually relevant to the job you want. And, tying into that, you don't have to include every bullet point from every job you've ever had. You can take bullet points out, and you can even take out entire jobs that are just not relevant. And hiring professionals assume that what's on the resume is what you've done and that it's what you want to be doing in the future. So you also want to keep that in mind and focus on that. Another don't is to have a single resume that you use for every job. What you want to do instead is customize your resume for the jobs. And the best way to figure this out is to look at the job postings and compare them. Are they the same or are they really different? Are the qualifications similar? Are the descriptions of the roles really similar? It really comes down to the job postings you want to apply to and if the requirements and responsibilities of the roles are the same or not. Now, as I said at the beginning, independent contributor and management jobs are really different. Job descriptions are different, qualifications are different. So if you are in the situation where you're applying for both, so maybe you're like, well, I'll apply for manager roles, but I'll also apply for independent contributor roles, you might actually need two versions of your resume, one that's focused on the requirements for IC and one that's focused on management requirements. So going back and looking at Peggy again, I think the consensus was she's really done a whole bunch of stuff on the don't list. So let's see how we could fix this up. So the first thing we have on the list is that she graduated from secretary school. And this might be left over from the version of her resume when she applied to her first job as a secretary there. And she might want to still include it because it's known as a prestigious school as well. But this is definitely a no. It's a big problem because this is totally irrelevant for her to do her job as a copywriter. And it makes her seem more junior. She's just not applying to that secretary role anymore. And of course, it's at the top of the resume. So we want to replace this with something that shows her level of seniority and speaks to the things that the job ad actually wants to see. So let's replace that with managed a team of 5 junior copywriters and illustrators. Then the next point we've got is about contributing copy to women's accounts. So this is also not ideal. She hasn't just contributed. She owned many of these accounts. She took control of the pitches. So she's really understating her role here. She may not have officially been the leader, but she did take the lead on these. Another thing she's doing for some reason is limiting her role to only a subset of the clients that focused on women's products. So at the time, she was viewed as a lady copywriter that could only get assigned those female accounts and work on those accounts focused on female products. And so she's kind of just playing right into that stereotype. Now, that's totally unfair to her because she's actually worked on all kinds of products. And so this is really actually limiting her experience and potential. So let's replace that and start portraying her level of seniority. So let's call her senior copywriter and have her managing multiple international campaigns across 7 industries, not contributing to them. And we want to show off the full breadth of clients she works with too. So not just in those female industries. So let's add in there that she's worked across 7 industries. And for the last one, now we've got this one being responsible for printing sample ad campaigns for client meetings. So yes, she may have done that, but that wasn't her main contribution. She was coming up with the creative ideas. She was pitching at the meetings and winning over clients. So again, she's made herself seem like she's on the admin staff rather than the copywriter that she is. So let's replace this one with an achievement. So one of her biggest successes, where she pitched and won a $2.5 million campaign for Burger Chef. So after a few revisions, this is what her resume looks like now. Let's go back to the chat again and let me know, after these changes, what would you now assume about Peggy from the resume? And does she now seem like management material? Jillian saying she comes across as a leader. Awesome. Maureen says yes. She's a rock star. That's quite the transformation. 10 out of 10 would interview. Excellent. Yes. So from this, it sounds like now we want to hire her. So that's quite the transformation. So the next step after you've finished with the resume is job search. And this is where you want to actually start actively searching for that new manager job that you're interested in. And so when it comes to job search, most people get really excited at the beginning. They start looking, they apply to a bunch of really awesome looking jobs online. And then they wait. And unfortunately, they may not hear back. And then what happens is they might end up, unfortunately, giving up and sticking with their current role. And applying online can feel very defeating. So the resume is important. As we just went over, it can make a huge difference, but it can't do everything for you. And this is especially true when you're looking to advance your career into management. So what we want you to do is network and then apply online. So looking to advance to a manager role, you really do need to be reaching out and having conversations with people. And so a great place to start is informal coffee chats with friends and former colleagues. Informational interviews can then be the next step. And so this would be setting up conversations with connections, people you know, or people that you don't know, new connections who happen to have expert knowledge in your area of career interest. So in this case, this could be setting up informational interviews with managers in your industry. Another great way to network is getting involved with WIMD. So all of the things Holly talked about at the beginning are great to get involved in, including WIMD Asks. So this is another great place to build your networking skills in a really supportive environment. And then LinkedIn is another great way too. So using that platform is a great way to make new connections. You can identify and reach out to people who have experience in careers and companies that look interesting to you. You always want to update your profile with your new resume info before you start reaching out. But you also don't just want to sit on LinkedIn waiting for people to approach you as well. Although you might get approached once you do make some changes on there, you should also be taking the initiative to make those new connections too. So when it comes to job search, one of the don'ts is pretty simple, but you don't want to just hide behind your computer. You do want to get out there and talk to people. And aligned with that, you don't want to just apply online, 30 seconds after you see the job posting. Why not take a minute to try to make contact with someone at the company, see if you have any connections there, and then apply online. And the important thing to remember too is that management skills are communication skills. So, by reaching out and making these connections, you'll be demonstrating your leadership skills by taking the initiative to do this, to make those new connections and communicate effectively. Another don't is you don't want to come across as desperate and possibly focused on getting a job as part of this. You don't want to be asking if there's any jobs available right away or asking if someone can set you up with an interview a couple minutes into the meeting. Instead, what you want to do is be friendly and focus on learning what challenges they have that you could help with. And you don't also want to just slip into mentee mode where you're sort of looking for a mentor. But what you want to do is treat them like a slightly more experienced peer while highlighting your leadership skills. And a great way to do this is by asking strategic questions to figure out what you can help with. So a good example is a question like, what are the biggest challenges in your department? Or what have you found difficult to recruit for in a manager role? And with these kind of questions, you can learn a lot, and you can also share how you might be able to help them as well. And the statistics really support this too. So 60% of jobs are found through networking. So it really just shows that the resume is important, but networking can also be even more important. And networking worked for Peggy. So she got her copy chief job after she met Ted Shaw at a diner. And the last step, the interview. So this final piece of the process is interviewing for the role that you actually want. And this can be one of the most challenging steps of all when transitioning from an independent contributor to a manager. So most people tend to interview like they're at their existing level. So they focus on the tasks they're responsible for. They don't usually tend to take full ownership of what they're doing. And they tend to just talk like they're aspiring to manager level responsibility. But what we want you to do is start interviewing like you're already a manager. So focus on the impact your actions had, take full ownership for what you did, and start talking like you already have that manager level responsibility. And as part of this, what's great to do is set aside some time to sit down and brainstorm stories for these areas as part of active interview preparation. So it takes some time to get used to thinking like this, to get used to talking like this, and it's almost impossible to think of all of this on the spot in an interview. So ideally, you want to get ready for this before the interview is even scheduled. And some of the leadership skills you want to highlight in your interviews are strategic focus, overseeing and supervising work, creating efficiency, mentoring and coaching, managing a budget, improving performance, decision-making, conflict management, managing change, and cross-departmental influence. And so your reaction might be, oh, but I haven't done any of that. But you don't have to have been in a leadership role to have done any of these things. And in all honesty, you've probably already done it before, maybe even a lot. But it's all in how you frame it, especially in the interview. Let's take a look at some examples of how these situations can be framed. So here's the first one, conflict management. So in an interview, an independent contributor might describe it like this. I escalated issues with key clients to the management team for resolution. So escalating that, not really resolving the issue, but taking it to a senior staff member to resolve. Going through a management lens, it might be described like this. I managed expectations for a disappointed client and ensured retention of an XX per year client. So this shows taking initiative to manage the clients yourself before issues arise, so it doesn't even have to be escalated. It also shows that clear result of ensuring retention of the client. And it can include a dollar amount, but it doesn't have to. You could also leave that out, but the skills of managing expectations and client retention are still the same. And for strategic focus, so an independent contributor might say something like this. We process 200 leases for cars per year. So this one has the use of we, which is very common during interviews. And this can be a tricky one. When you're used to working in a team environment, you get used to saying we for everything. It can take some practice, but we want you to start shifting to using I, because it makes it quite difficult for the interviewer to actually understand what you specifically did in that situation. And this one also focuses on really task-heavy results, processing car leases. So for a manager, They might word it like this: I implemented a new sales strategy to close 200 additional leases per year. So even though we're looking at the same results, these 200 leases per year, this small shift in wording really makes it sound much more strategic. And this new strategy doesn't have to be something that's department wide. It doesn't have to be something that you taught other people to use. It can even just be a shift in your own strategy, but what it is doing is showing that strategic thinking. And the next one, overseeing work. So an independent contributor might say something like, we organized a mentoring program for our staff. I volunteered to help out with mentor and mentee matching. So as you can see, there's that use of we again. Again, you can see it's difficult to understand exactly how the person might have contributed to the program, and you just kind of tend to assume they played a small role. And helping out sounds like you weren't doing a whole lot at all. You certainly weren't leading the initiative, but just maybe playing a small part in it. And from a manager perspective, it might be worded like this: I started a successful mentoring program for the company. I coordinated 5 employee volunteers to launch the project and assign the mentors to mentees. So using started right away demonstrates initiative. Coordinated employees demonstrates that ability to lead others. And launching the program and assigning the mentors to mentees, that shows that clear result and that you were able to lead the program to its successful conclusion. And for this one, decision making. So an independent contributor might say something like this: I assisted my boss with the implementation of a new software package for geological modeling. So right away, the use of assisted kind of minimizes the contribution, kind of gives the assumption you took orders from the boss and you didn't really guide the strategy. So from a manager perspective, it might be worded like this: I evaluated software packages for the team and made a recommendation that resulted in purchase. So evaluated software packages right away suggests the value add that you contributed. And then even if you weren't responsible for the ultimate decision, the question to ask yourself is, did you play a part in it? And so, making that recommendation shows that you might have played a big part in it. That might have been the whole reason your boss decided to make that purchase. So recommendations are a great way to take credit for your contribution to a decision. Okay, so it's time for the summary. So I'm going to take you through a bit of a summary of everything that I've gone over here. And as I'm going through that, I want you to take some time to think about one thing that you could possibly take action on going forward. So one thing that you might have learned today or something that stood out to you that you'd like to take action on. So going back to the 5 steps, these 5 basic steps to getting any new job. The first step is choosing those jobs to target. And so when it comes to choosing the jobs to target, you really want to apply for stretch roles. And these are the ones where you meet 50 to 70% of the qualifications. When it comes to assessing your skills, the second step, you want to focus on the positive. That's the key takeaway. You want to focus on how you do meet the requirements. And you want to focus on how your skills will help you to do the job well. Then when it comes to writing your resume, you want to focus on results, not tasks, and you want to quantify your impact too. And you only want to include relevant details. And relevant details are whatever's related to the job posting. And then when it comes to job search, the key to this one is networking. So we know the resume is really important, but we know it can't do everything, especially when you want to advance your career. So you want to start reaching out, you want to start having conversations, and you want to focus on learning as part of that. So not focusing on jobs and is a job available and can you get an interview, but instead you want to focus on learning about their challenges and demonstrating how you might be able to help. And for the last step, the interview. So in this, you want to focus on highlighting manager traits. So traits like strategic focus, decision-making, creating efficiency, mentoring and coaching, and overseeing and supervising work. And you want to take the time to prepare well before the interview because it takes some time to really do some brainstorming and start to think of these kinds of stories and examples. So let me know in the chat any thoughts, any actions you might want to take. So Jillian's saying focus on learning about companies' challenges. And Holly's saying more informational interviews and coffee chats. And then Lucy's saying applying for stretch roles instead of roles I'm already doing. Yes, that's great. You definitely want to be doing all of that. I'm really liking all of these thoughts here. Being intentional about networking and not relying on job applications or LinkedIn. Yes, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, that is such a great way to approach this. Awesome. And so, as I said at the beginning, working through these 5 steps is also really helpful in helping you build that confidence in your skills and getting you where you want to go. It helps you, build that confidence to get out there, job search, network, and interview, and actually land that career advancing role. So I'm really excited to see that some of you have already shared some actions you want to take. And I really encourage you, to get started as soon as possible with that. So take one of those actions we just talked about. And then you'll be ready to strut confidently into your next role, just like Peggy's doing in the picture here, although maybe minus the cigarette, of course. And of course, thank you so much for coming today and for having me here. And I'm always interested in staying in touch. So I've got my website and my email address here. So please feel free to reach out with any questions, or if you'd just like to set up a quick 15-minute chat. I'm also on social media too, so definitely connect with me there. I'm sharing a lot of career tips there as well.